explain it. When I close my eyes, I see a strange reality. Am I dreaming, or on the edge of remembering? You wake up feeling like you really don't belong. You can't explain it, but when you close your eyes you see familiarity. Are you dreaming, or on the edge of remembering? Okay, we are back live today, darlings. I always start the day with a song. So, my beautiful projects over here are all on hold. Friday, we will get the green wool necessary to continue working on this large purse. And it'll probably be another week before I get the stuff to make a special little silk purse, silky purse. I decided on what to make my beloved son and his partner for their 7th anniversary. I'm not going to say it because you never know if he's popping by to say hi. I don't want to give away the surprise. I will say it will be reminiscent of Halloween-y things because we all love Halloween. But not corny Halloween. Like literally no candy corn involved. I'm not making anything cutesy. Although that'll be cute. but I have a couple of special crystals, and they're small enough to wear. In fact, originally I saved them to see if I could ever pick up the skills necessary to do a good wire wrapping so I could wear them. But then I decided against having that kind of weight on my neck. And actually, I don't like metal on my neck. So when I make things, I usually wear silk. Like right now, the metal of this necklace is actually making the back of my neck itch. Years ago, I thought it was an allergy to metals in general. And in fact, that's my conclusion. My body feels metals are too harsh for it. I went and tried it with real gold, and I guess I can tolerate gold a little bit longer than inexpensive metal. I just thought it'd be fun to wear this today. I haven't worn it in like 30 years. It was a gift. And so I haven't been able to get rid of it. But I can see the only way I'll be able to wear it again is if I trade out the metal for silk. A pre-felted lump, which we don't need. Okay, I have this underneath here. I'm gonna take this off. You're lovely and unusual, but incompatible. I'm not from this planet. All right. Now, we have a woman who works in the building who's an exceptional woman with 2 young girls, daughters, and she helps so many people around here and is always on the go. So I wanted to do something nice for her with the felt because she really enjoys seeing what you can do with it. And she has, with 2 little girls and a bunch of us here who love to give her things, her office is starting to look like a grandmother's house, with all these little things made by young people who want to cheer her up. So I thought, I'm not giving her one more thing she's got to have sitting on her desk. So I asked her if she uses bookmarkers, and it turns out, why, yes, she does. She loves bookmarkers. So I found out her favorite colors. She's a big blue lover. With this particular blue being confirmed as probably her #1 favorite. And I relate. This is just one of the most beautiful blues, I think, that exists. And although it's very light, it's not baby blue. So, of course, we are going to make a sheet that will become at least 5 bookmarkers. But first we must build it. And I am building it on this so that I don't go over the size of my roller. Now, because this is her favorite, I want to make one entire layer of this color. Now, technically, I would call this an aqua. It's one of my very favorite colors as well, so I have a couple things in my wardrobe that reflect that. Stay there. Give them the holes. Now, the wispier your wool, the faster it will felt. Now, yesterday I watched somebody felt with a hand sander, obviously without the sandy part on it. Now, I don't think my wrists could handle it, not because of the weight, but because of the amount of vibration. I remember drilling eggs when I was carving eggshells, and when I started the craft, I started with a Dremel hand tool. It is, even though I had it hanging from, I didn't have to hold the motor part of it, just holding on to the part that was the drill, it was painful at the end of the day. And although I started with eggs as a hobby, it did become a business. So I had to do that. So I ended up graduating to a dental drill. Air-powered, 100,000 rotations per minute. It might have actually been even faster than that. And I did love that drill, but that too, the vibration when you're working with the tool for hours and hours, just the strain of holding your hand in the right angle and all that, it is wearing. And I need more. Now, I believe that one of the colors I just ordered and is coming in on Friday is an aqua. I like this. And if it isn't, I will be ordering it again, but I'm going to have to wait until next month because I went a little overboard and bought some fancy trimmings to go into stuff. Placing 2 orders at Living Felt instead of 1. I really have to limit myself to 1 a month, especially during summer when we have air conditioning running and electric bills take all of our money. but she likes multiple blues because we're going to run out of this before I can do this a second round. Now what I'm most looking forward to on Friday though is my 2 greens. I ordered 2 green wools so I can finish off the purse. I'm making the carrying strap into a vine to go with the flower. And I have greens here, but not enough, you know, of one color or even 2 colors to make that work. Now, if you just happen to wander by and you don't know why you're here, and somehow the algorithm directed you here, what I'm doing today is wet felting bookmarkers. We have a library now established in our building, and a young man who needs some applause and deserves it. We're helping the library become the library. So I volunteered to make some bookmarks to donate to our first librarian of the building. But the first one goes to the senior resident advisor who made sure all of that happened in the first place. We brought Tai Chi in, which took 3 years, and basically happened because I found some videos on YouTube that we can use for class, a beginner's class. And it's already gotten the best turnout of any of the exercise classes. Everybody who has any interest at all in any kind of exercise is interested in Tai Chi. They must be advertising it. Tai Chi has been practiced for a very, very long time. When I say they, I mean a company is pushing their lessons or instruction or way in any way. If they don't have money to make on it, they're not going to tell you about it. So we do things a little differently around here then. Okay, so now we start the other layer. And that's it for the aqua. So now we're going to start adding some different features. Now see, it has a very long staple. The only reason it pulled apart like that is because they cut it there. Otherwise, this would keep going. Like, and we don't want to get too carried away. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to use some of this pale stuff. And then I will use the darker for the top layer, where we're going to add more decorations in color and flat, because it's a bookmarker and we don't want to damage the pages. We want it to be as thin and delicate and unobtrusive as possible, but visible to let us know where we left off reading. This I have plenty of. I bought multiple ounces of it. The prices are so weird when you buy it overseas. Like, I don't always know if it's a good idea or not, because you can't tell. Here, you know, it's like, okay, the wool I use averages $3.50 an ounce, and everybody in this country that's selling it is charging about the same. Which does help in figuring where you're going to buy from. But when they try to translate it into overseas, like buying wool through Temu, I have gotten some lovely things from them, and also some really annoying things like synthetic posing as natural wool, and synthetic does not felt a wet felt. So that's frustrating. I thought this was a synthetic when I got it, but it turned out to pass the wool test. It's the real deal. You are a little too thick. Not too thick for some things, but for a bookmark, yes. The wispier, the better. Now, one of the things I can do after the cut, I can embellish with needle felting, and that'll be fun. Let's get them on. As you can see, we have a bit of it. A big bit. A big bit with a bunch of little bits. But that is a gorgeous blue. Does it really go? This would look better, I think. At the end, we're going to throw in some purple. Let's get the right purple. It's amazing how many purples there are. Purples and plums. Really different. That's an awesome purple. I have some here. but this actually will go better. Yeah, I leave like a felting, needle felting, and she does not like sky blue, which I thought was almost amusing. I love all the blues, but not sky blue. I think she meant baby blue. Overused. I grew up hating baby pink because I was a little girl born in an era where if you were a little girl, everything was baby, pain in the ass, ugly, pink. Okay, it wasn't a pain in the ass. To me, it was ugly though. It's like, every little girl wears this. How cute. But I was also the kid who wanted black eyeglasses instead of little girl glasses. We got little girl glasses. You know, it took me a whole day standing in the corner to break an arm off. And they make child-proof frames. They are serious. I don't recommend that if you're a kid. Do not break your glasses. They're very expensive these days. Well, they've always been expensive, but they break very easily, making them actually more expensive than they used to be when one investment could last you for a while, until you had a prescription change, anyway. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. The best time to fill in the holes is before you felt it. It works better. Okay, it is time, oh, not quite, time for the top layer. It feels like it's, maybe you need a little bit more over there. I have to stand up and look down at it. See what we have. Oh yes, standing up I can see the holes in here much better. Why didn't you say something? Hey, there's a hole there. Okay. I didn't expect you to tell me. It's my job to figure it out. Yep, you're very wispy. Okay. Now the top layer is going to go. And how do I want to do it? I have some other fibers. It could be a little tricky, but I have to at least give it a shot because it's just too pretty. Look at that. That stuff's gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of that. Even though some of it, a lot of it, is going to have to be covered up. Okay. This feels like fairy dust. I mean, it's just so light and airy. So I'm going to take a couple of these out. Because I think there are 9 strands in this one strand. That would be a bit thick if they were all going to go into a bookmarker. So I'm going to separate them. Dropping my woo. I suppose I should get my little grabby hands. Okay, check that out. This is a very textured item here, and we're just gonna kind of lackadaisically make it go around here. It is sticking to my skin. Let's take these. Well, maybe, you know what? I like those without this. Let's make it more ethereal looking. Okay, you go over here. They are so baby hair fine. So we have a green, a lavender, and a blue here. Now these are not going to stay exactly where I put them. I'm going to wet felt this, so things are going to move about a bit. But what has to happen now is they will have to be basically weighed down. Okay, we'll just keep it all with the blues right now. Keep the pink over there, blues, greens, okay. I can't wait to see how this felt. Okay, and now we have to go back here. Now I wanted to anchor this down with some wild color for contrast. Oh yeah, we got to go this way. Let's go. Excuse me, guys.
Adrian, right? Is your name? Okay, I always forget.
Oh,
I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Oh, this is wonderful. I needed this today. It's my belting in the kitchen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, think of really evening like a rocky over.
Okay.
Have a great day, too.
That's okay.
Stay cool.
You too.
I will do my best.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. Look what happened. My wool arrived today instead of Friday. Well, we're going to finish this before I go crazy and debox. Hello there. When did I start felting as a hobby? A few weeks ago. I took one look at it, wet felting. I guess it's been about a month, because I did take a little workshop in making a flower. I went berserk. When I saw it, I made this immediate creative connection and knew I had to do it. It was just a bizarre thing. I mean, I've been painting and arting my entire life, and I love them and I'm passionate about the stuff I do, but never like this. This has been like a hands-on thing. Well, I guess clay. I was really into clay, but I had no way to really express it. My kiln was just a little teeny one. I didn't have access to anything bigger, so I didn't get very far with clay as much as I loved it. But this gives me I have the tactile thing and the color thing. You know, it feeds both of those hungers. I need to have my hands in it, and I need to have color. So I put these aside today thinking I wasn't going to get what I just got until Friday. What I just got are 2 green wools, so I can make the edging of this green, like, you know, this is a flower, and I'm going to make a rope to look like a vine that I'm going to attach to the bottom of this, so it's going to just be like a big loop. And then this, once I have all the green done, thank you, it just feels like I was born to do it. It's the weirdest thing. The strange thing was I discovered needle felting years and years ago when I was making soap. And I was doing well, I used to sell my soap, and I was doing an Audubon show where we were raising money for the Audubon in Rhode Island. Rhode Island, yes, Rhode Island. I've lived all over this country, so I get confused about where I was sometimes. Um, but when I saw this, it was just got to do it, and so everything has been just it just feels like the natural thing to do. I had cravings for. I love textiles, and I've always wanted to be using them, but I can't sew to save my life. I bought and gave away 3 sewing machines over my lifetime because I was an entertainer, singer, songwriter, on stage all the time, and I couldn't get clothes that really suited me. And then I thought I could make some, and that didn't work because I'm really good at knots and breaking needles. But then I did this Audubon show, and there's this woman across from me doing miniature animals, mostly birds because it was the Audubon. So she's just sitting there, and oh no, it's never too late for most things, really. I mean, I'm not gonna, not that I wouldn't try it, I'm not gonna go skydiving. It's a very expensive pastime. I don't have money to spend like that. Oh yes, we are here to create. We just stifle it, and also we put too many definitions on what it is to be an artist or a creative spirit. Because you can be creative, problem solver, number person. People underestimate themselves. I sold art supplies to professionals for years, and I loved it. That was my favorite retail job. And I got to handle a lot of stuff and learn a lot of stuff and speak with a lot of reps, and I just loved the hell out of that. But it's not exactly a well-paying job, and then I left California, so that was the end of that. Actually, I moved before that to another part of California. But I do believe everybody is born to be creative in some area. We are here to create everything on this planet. Yeah, see, I can't do that. Paragliding would be too dangerous. I would have to do something with respect to my physical conditions, which are I'm not going to enumerate at this point. But you find adventure where you're ready for it, I guess. So my sister went skydiving once, and she fell in love with it. And she would do it again and again if it wasn't so expensive. But when you take your first dives, there's somebody actually attached to you. So when you land, you're not going to break your legs. And me, when I fall to the floor, I crackle, So it's like, no, I don't want anything that's going to potentially impact me into the side of anything. What do you like to do, Hyphen? I made a couple of purses with the wet felting method using synthetic yarns for embellishment. I love how they came out. So that's what the thrill is. It's like I had my first gallery opening at age 70 a couple of years ago, and I was invited to come back, and I didn't take it up. Well, I did at first, and then I canceled. It's like, you know what? Now that I've done it, it's not like painting is new to me. But the truth is, marketing. I don't like marketing. That's all you need to do is create. Things do not have to have a monetary reward. And I think that's one of our problems is we've become hyper focused on reward. Okay, like my first marriage, great guy, but he was very much about money. And of course, he did, pretty good for himself right out of college. Landed a great job, and included some of his own creativity because he was a creative person too. But he liked management more, and it paid better than doing the creating part. Where me, I'm like, I give away and have given away. I can't even tell you. I've had people send me photos of the art that I gave them 50 years ago that they had on their wall. It's like, that's cool. Looks kind of familiar. And they had to tell me it was mine. And recognize my own art after a while. But this is totally different. This is for me. It's not about making money. Music, I did it because I loved it. It led to making money. But that was more, I started singing in public and people started tipping me, and then it became a gig when I needed a gig. And it grew from there. But like I said, it always comes back to my art has always been given away, or I've had to sell it. I have had two creative businesses, and I did art, but different kinds. I was an egg carver and painter, and I had a product that went out of California called Wisecracks, and they went all over the country. I even saw somebody on YouTube imitating me. It was like, all right, they got one of my eggs, little suckers. But because I gave away thousands of them, thousands. As a matter of fact, I'd go to the Renaissance Fair in California, and every day I went, I brought 101 eggs to give away, just surprise people with. And I love to go to Disneyland. I left them around too, for the employees. Well, the thing is, if you share it, you have that joy in the moment. I only have 4 songs recorded. I had other things recorded over time and lost them over time. I had stuff on reel to reel back in the 70s and 80s, and then that went out, and then it was cassettes, and then cassettes went out, and through moves and all that, I've gradually just lost stuff. I don't even know all my own songs anymore. But when I wrote my first book, whenever I ran into I don't like to say block, I just needed a different way to create. Like I'd hit this part in the story that I couldn't really put in the story because it would have weighed it down. You need to have stories moving forward. So instead I would get off the keyboard and not try to force anything, and I'd go to my music and I'd write a song. So I wrote 7 songs for my first book. And of course there's no way they don't publish, well maybe the big publishers might, but nobody was going to be picking up my book and the music. So when I got my first book published, I sent out about 50 copies with a CD of my 4 recorded songs. And even that was paid for by somebody else, and I only had time for 1 take each. So it was like the song I open with, I've got 2 songs where I sing, and I use them on my show to open my show because I don't have to worry about copyright infringement. It's mine. And I said I don't have the other 2 songs are instrumentals, and I wouldn't say they translate real well. So I just do the 2 I sing to start the shows. So the first book is called No Matters, The Edge of Remembering. So the song I play most to start my show is called The Edge of Remembering. Let's take some of this. And it's flattering, but what's important? Being flattered or continuing to do your music and art? That is what matters. The reason I brought that husband up was I wore out typewriters while I was working on my first book. And you know, when you are printing out your book to do your typos and all that stuff, my manuscript was 535 typewritten pages. I went through a ton of paper just to make corrections. And when you submit something to the Copyright Office, it has to be perfect. So I was just going through typewriter ribbons, and you can't do any whiteout, no erasures for the Copyright Office, or submissions to agents and all that. So that's why I said I hate marketing. I've already been through it all. And that's why I stopped doing gallery stuff. It's like, I'm not looking to my price. Oh, well, thank you for checking it out. I have my husband wanted me, in return for getting my first computer in 1986, the condition was I had to publish. I needed to do something commercial, and Namaris science fiction fantasy was not the most sellable at the time. Romance novels were. So I tried my hand at a Harlequin romance. No, I didn't finish it. Turned out my ideas were too big for Harlequin, and they, by the time I was halfway through the first book, I'd already reached the word limit for that imprint, so it's clear I was never going to be a romance writer. Although there is some romance in my books. I'm hoping nobody buys it right now. When the third book is done, which is what I'm working on now, when the third Namaris is finished, I'm taking everything off Amazon because I'm boycotting Amazon. Okay, let's get a little bit more cool looking purple in here. I'm working on the third book. Anyway, I got the computer, and I loved the computer, and I still do. But that's how I ended up getting the first book completed, was on the computer. So, you know, it takes what it takes. But again, I don't create with the hope or assumption I'm going to make money on anything. The assumption is if I'm doing something like this, I'm spending money because I'm buying supplies, right? I'm investing in it. That's why this time, although this is going to be all gift, the majority of what I'm making, I've already decided is going to be for me. I want to make wearable art. So if I can wear it, it's worth it. Because everything you make is an original, right? And I do appreciate originality. And just like when I started doing art or music or anything I've ever done, I was writing stories at a very, very young age, playing piano, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not a matter of accomplishment. It's a matter of, are you happy when you're doing it? Can you get into the flow state and just dig what you're doing? Then you have succeeded. Your work does not have to be hanging in the Louvre or playing on a major label to be appreciated. So yeah, I encourage that people find what turns them on. What do you like to do? What gives you joy? And focus on it. Because if you focus on the stuff of the material world that's just about money, you're going to end up tired and probably poor. Because you won't love it. You won't have your passion. It's really hard to get passionate about cash unless you have a problem. Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. Exactly. And I just love having my hands in it, you know? And this, by the way, feels really good. Have you ever done any felting? It's so soft. It's so soft. And it's really clean. When I say clean, I mean your medium is wool that's already been cleaned and dyed and carded, so all the fibers go in the right direction. But it's also, you just use soapy water. I mean, suds. So like this is the next step. And maybe I can throw a little bit more. Where was the blue? I want to add some different, no, that's the same color. Let's go back with the purple. These are going to be cut up to be bookmarkers, this whole sheet. I'm donating them to the new library that's been established in our community soon, our building community. I want to encourage them, keep reading. Okay, I think that's enough. All right, so step 2. Where's my net? Oh, right here. Done. Oh, it's just supposed to just be colors. It's going to be bookmarks. When it's all flat and I iron it, I'm going to be cutting it into bookmarkers. No, I have thought about doing that because there's so much wonderful thing. I mean, felting is centuries and centuries old. Ever since people domesticated animals or held them in barns, they saw what happened when the fur gets matted. You end up with something that's very, very strong, with really unusual qualities. Okay, so I learned and was reminded again yesterday when I was working on a flower is that don't touch drywall with wet hands unless you have something it won't stick to between your hands and it. There is, have you ever heard of Serafina yarns or fiber? I'm not really sure what, I always forget the second part of the name, but Serafina, if you look up here on YouTube, Serafina yarns or Serafina fiber, you will have your mind blown with what people are doing with felt. They have a contest every year now for 2 and 3D felted paintings or creations. 2 and 3D meaning like the background is flat like your normal, you know, sheets of felt. You can even start with that. But it's needle felted, wet felted, and then needle felted some more to make 3-dimensional objects. It's a really amazing craft. Oh, cool. Yeah, they are wonderful. I go with living felt a lot too, because the first people I discovered was actually living felt. And I love both of them and I want to support both of those channels very much. But I went with living felt to start with, because I already know my friends are supporting Serafina, and because their wool was 1 penny an ounce less expensive. Isn't it amazing? It's just, now see, that's what my friends are into. They end up going more with, I can move this now. Oh, and I guess I better lay down a towel before we go any further. I forgot to do that part. I was shocked, just like you, when I saw it. There's somebody that makes felted night lampshades that are real fanciful, like marine creatures, and then they just put low watt bulbs behind them and they glow and they've got all these holes in them. It's like, oh my god, I'm so impressed. Now I have people here who have already been asking me to teach wet felting, and I see where they're coming from, because they've been taking these needle felting workshops, and I joined them for one to make a calla lily, because I figured, well, this is someone who's training with Serafina to become a certified teacher of felting, so I want to be able to pick her mind and see what's going on and what she's doing that I don't know yet. And I learned a couple things, like ironing your felt. Like, turns out that is an important thing to do when it's all said and done. Okay, now this, we've already got a purple and a blue here. This netting has its pros and cons. I'm going to see if I can find one that works a little better. I mean, it works. It's just that it also, in the agitation, it brings up some of the fibers through this, because the fibers wants to knit with whatever you put it with. So where that is an advantage for Nuno felting, which is felting with silk, because silk doesn't felt, but you can felt it into things, so you can get these really interesting things, or felt on top of silk. I have a bunch of silk saved up just for weird stuff like experimenting later. But everything I'm doing now, I mean, it's coming from an old lady perspective. If I was, back in my 20s or 30s, or if I was still in entertainment, I would be looking at creating, I guess, more outrageous stuff, just because when you're on stage, you need to keep eyes on you. Oh, fingers, thank you. All right, let's just, we want to get this felted. Come on, look at that. Now the nice thing about this is it's a simple project. So look at that, already wanted to climb through that. Well, go over there. Exactly. And you know what? I've always loved that. Always. That's how I started with egg work. My grandpa came from an old country, and the farm, he was a miller by trade, grinding flour for the village. So their breakfast was frequently just a raw egg that they sucked out of the eggshell. Yes, go suck an egg. That's an old insult to old immigrants who did grow up on the farm sucking eggs for food. But that is not okay now because of all the diseases in the raw eggs. Back then, it was a different world. So I saw my grandpa do that every morning when he was in a hurry. And one morning, at around 3 years old, I had to try it. And although there was no, you won't like it, no, go have your cereal or whatever they were making for me, I don't remember, whatever it was, I probably didn't like it. And he finally let me do it. He finally let me suck an egg. It was horrible. Papa had he was a grown man, and he could do the whole egg in one slurp. I was a little girl, and it was more like drinking out of the egg, and it was disgusting. Because of that, I don't think I can eat gumbo or cooked okra. But I fell in love with the eggshell itself, and so he would give me the eggshells, and I would draw on them, and then later on I started building things inside the chicken eggshells, because you look around and you see, what can I put in this? So I built my own trees and rocks and everything else. Found when I lived in the country. Oh, you live in the country, you got a whole field worth of stuff you can use. So I was always in the wild picking stuff that I could dry, color, cut, shape, and put inside an eggshell to create a scene. And I don't have any left after all these years, because those I did on commission. I did them for fun, but I also ended up doing them on commission. My favorite one, actually there were two favorites. One of them was, he wanted an island, a desert island in the middle of the egg with water pouring out of it. So I found a big clam shell and I built around it, and I had water, which I used plaster for, coming out of it. I used, I built an island, I made little trees, I made coconuts out of pot seeds, and it looked adorable. Had a rainbow painted on the inside of the eggshell. But later I got into actually carving them, and I liked that even more. Okay, we need another piece of plastic. Come here, plastic. Do you do any band work? Do you play with other people? Or are you mostly solo? Oh yes. Yes, I worked with mostly chicken eggs, because I could get them almost free. I'd go down to the farm where they were being processed. That's how I learned a lot about eggs that they don't tell you in the news. And they used to have a grade B egg, which is now illegal. Grade B eggs are, well, all the eggs that don't sell in a grocery store, they're collected and brought back to the factory. And if they're not rotten, they are used to create your egg white stuff and powdered eggs. All that stuff doesn't use like first grade stuff unless it says only grade A eggs used. I don't think you'll ever see that, but you might. I used to process and paint 780 eggs a week when I was in business, and I did that mostly alone. Occasionally my then fiance would help with some of the cleaning parts. I had a genius chemistry professor, who figured out a way for me to suck the stuff out of the eggs 2 at a time with an old vacuum cleaner. We hooked up just for that. It was like, oh my God, you made my life so much easier than standing over the sink blowing out eggs. Oh. Well, I will tell you, as someone who has played guitar and piano, I found piano way easier on the hands. Guitar is a devotion, like violin, because it hurts to learn. Oh yes. There were times my fingers actually bled. I practiced 4 hours a day when I was gigging, and I used to play 2 to 3 nights a week. That was all I could get. So I did a lot of part-time jobs to make sure I could make ends meet. And I didn't care. I loved factory work. I loved waitress work, bartending, because I like working with people. Also, I like when you're working in a job like that, when the shift is over, you go home and you're not responsible for everybody. Whereas if you're in charge, as you are as an independent, self-employed person, your work never ends. You're working really 24/7. Back then we didn't have, digital communications, so everything was done by hand. When I did a show, I had a notebook and friends who volunteered to share the notebook so people could write down their physical addresses if they wanted to be on my mailing list. So every month I made a calendar to cover 2 months worth of gigs, and I made them fun and mailed them out. So, it was an investment. We did use real stamps back then. Well, we still use real stamps, but everything had to be done by hand. So when you're promoting yourself, it's a constant. We didn't have social media. We had to learn the skill of writing press releases and bringing them with good photographs that the newspaper could print and getting them to the newspapers. So it's a different world, completely. But I would not want to start over the way things are now. I was thinking about that this morning, not starting over, but the way industries have corrupted art and music, taken away. There are hundreds of thousands of talented people all over the world. Hundreds of thousands. And they have wonderful ideas, but no money, no knowledge of how to pursue getting their stuff out there where people can learn about it. It's a lot of work, and they think, well, just promoting it on social media, that's not enough. You can't just promote something, you have to have the gigs. You gotta get it people in. So it's work. It is work. But people rely on bigger corporations to do it for them. I think if we went back to a world of, imagine worlds without digital media. Imagine there being no social network. If you have to do it yourself, you start looking at life and people differently. And when you're face to face with people, you learn to be kind. I think that being so removed by doing social media, we're not really interacting with humans. We're interacting with, unfortunately, many times bots, bad actors. We didn't have something called catfishing back in the day, but it's become kind of alienating. So consider picking up an instrument of some kind in the physical, and imagine what you might want to create with if there was no computer world. What if you were just promoting yourself to enjoy what you're doing? Now, if you're doing virtual instruments, you might consider getting a digital keyboard. Yes, we have so many people. Well, yes, some things are easier, but something I think is lost in the experience. Okay, I love playing piano. Now, when you're playing a real piano, like let's say a baby grand, big, right? Big soundboard. When you hit those notes, you're not just hearing it in your ears. You feel it in your body. There's a connection between you and the soundboard, the piano, and the guitar. So when I learned piano for a while, but then when I was homeless at 17, I took up the guitar because I still had the craving to create music, and that was the only way I could, play music. So I had to teach myself guitar, which was not easy. But I was determined, and I found a trick to learning fast. I had friends who played. I would learn a chord. I'd go home and I'd write a song with that chord immediately. And if I add a chord, I wrote another song that incorporated that chord. So I started practicing doing the chord changes over and over and over because I had a song. I cannot stand practice that is aimless. No. Yeah. Well, I discovered when I picked up the guitar that you hold it against your body, and every note, you feel it, man. You feel it, and you sing with it, and you vibe with it, and your whole body becomes like an echo chamber. It is a different experience. I highly recommend it. Yes, it will hurt. You will have to get used to holding your hand in a weird position, but it's very much worth it, I think. But there are other things. There are simpler ones, like the ukulele. I'm not the biggest fan of ukes, but I've got a friend that comes here all the time, and he plays it, and he makes it sound good. It's just not something that I would necessarily pick up, but if you're looking to learn how to play a string instrument, it's a good place to start. It's light, it's small, it's cheap. I mean, you can get a uke for $15. You can even make one with the cigar box. So there are ways. But I think it is always. That's what I started to say about doing the soap show at the Audubon. The woman across from me was doing little teeny needle felting, and I had to watch her. I mean, literally, we're across the room, and whenever I had to stretch my legs, you know, you sit there and you wait at the, you know, those shows like that. Not everybody flocks into the Audubon Society. So I'd go over there, I'd watch her, and I was fascinated. It's like, you know, that looks like a really good hobby for when you're sitting around like this, waiting for something to happen. My husband and I had been doing shows like farmers markets. We had our own tent and all that, and we did painted rocks and eggs. Yes, we actually made a living. At least in California. We moved to North Carolina, and it was on the farm, and there was none of that happening. Good. Do what you want to do. That's how I have lived my life. Not always. I didn't love every single job, but like I said, there are advantages to working in a factory. Great advantages. You go in, you do your job, you go home. It's not your responsibility anymore. So I took factory jobs in winter when there weren't a whole lot of gigs in the touristy areas where I live. And I loved it. I learned how to make bubble gum in California when I worked for Warner Lambert. I made bubblicious bubble gum. The greatest joy in that, number one, it was very clean work. Obviously, you're working with food. But the real joy was I learned how bubble gum is made and produced in large amounts. And I learned everything you needed to know about bubble gum. And it was fun. And I was able to draw out a schematic, which is one of my favorite things to do when I learn something in a factory. Write it all out so you've got the stages. I wrote it out and sent it to my nephews. They flipped. I also sent bubblicious bubble gum with it. I said, this is how this was made. And you know what? They're in their 30s and they still remember. They were little kids at the time, obviously. So yeah, anyway, when I found this, I was actually looking for tips on needle felting because two of the people here, friends of mine that we are part of a creative circle every Friday morning, they had taken a workshop over the holiday and made penguins. Now, I have zero interest in making tchotchkes because it's just more stuff to sit around and collect dust for me. I have a crowded art studio. My living room is my art studio. I gave away my couch for my easel to have room. So you know what my priorities are. I also gave away my television because it was like, I'm not hanging that on my wall, I got art. So I think the best thing you can do in finding your career, if you want a career, or finding your direction, is pay attention to how you feel. If it feels good, keep going. If it doesn't feel good, please stop. Do something that feels better. The biggest crimes against humanity is making people work at a job they despise. They feel bad about it every day. That is no way to live. Yes, yes, it is. Every new piece is a new experience. And one of the things about this, like I said, I looked at web felting and it was like simpatico immediately. It's like meeting your soulmate, you know? It's like, I had to wait till I was 72 to discover it. No regrets. That's part of life. You keep going, you keep learning. There's new things all the time. That's why I am bored with painting for a gallery. That is marketing. That's all that's for. I wanted to go out there and let people know that I was working on positive vibrations instead of what was going on in the area, well, on the country, which was pretty harsh and still is. My exhibit was called Sunny Side Up because, and of course, there was a lot of light and sun and all that stuff in my show. But after a month of being in the gallery, with most of it actually not for sale, like this is part of my collection, you can't have it. I did sell something, but it wasn't about the sales, but that's really what galleries want. They want you to sell stuff so they have a ability to exist and be artists themselves. Because of course the gallery owner, at least in my case, is also an artist. But I didn't go back because the thought of doing another show was not appealing. It wasn't fun. It was like, oh, now it's a chore. Now I have to make sure I've got frames, which are not cheap. I've got to make sure I've got this and I've got that and I've got to do my paperwork again. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm bored with it. I've been painting since I was 11. And I like it. I'm not anti-art or painting. I'm just tired of doing it constantly. Now, I have tried to learn other new things, like I said, knitting, crocheting, sewing. I can't. I mean, I have done it, I've tried, failed, fail, fail. After a while, it's like I'm just wasting money and time and frustrating myself. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep. And that's bad. That's so inhibiting to creativity. You can't get in the flow when you're on social media. It's like being in city traffic. Stop, go, stop, go. That's the emotional part of that. The energetic part of working in social media is like, yeah, it's not like smooth like a waterfall. It's take this, post this, check this out. And when I started promoting, actually I didn't. I was told I need to be on Instagram, I need to be on TikTok, I need to be making short reels and all of that. It's like, I'm not here specifically to teach about any art I do. I'm here to promote people to do their thing, to find out what that is, to help create a new paradigm for this world, where it's not all based on how much money you can make, or how popular, or how many likes can you get. That is the kind of thinking that leads to plastic surgery to feel good about yourself. Hey, I get it. I get it. There's no need for you to expose yourself to a world that is, at least in part, indifferent. But you know what sucks about social media? People have just gotten so used to being anonymous that they have become extremely uncivilized and rude and cruel. And they say things they would never say in person. Also, they show that a lot of them have about the mentality of a 12-year-old. Okay, let's soak up some of this. We don't need all this water now. The water to begin with is really helpful to get everything working together, moving together, but then it becomes too much, and that we don't want. I started out by sharing with the people I worked with, because when I was on my own so young, I didn't have a chance to make any friends yet. I left them behind in high school, and across town I had to bring myself to where there was actually potential for work, instead of living in, you know, suburban America, where the concern was being close to the schools more than being close to shopping. Yes, yes. And you know, it used to be sarcasm was rude. When you were sarcastic, you were not being nice. And then it became almost an art form. Sarcasm is my native language, and they're proud of their not dealing with the world, you know, in a civil way. Because right now in America we have very bad examples at the top. We have people who are definitely mentally impaired and unhealthy in every way, telling other people how to behave. It's like, yeah, you're a great example. When I read about, I don't know, some guy we've got in the government now who's in charge of the airports or something. He's not in charge of the TSA. He's in charge of, I don't know, putting weights in waiting rooms, or he wants people to dress nice for traveling on an airplane. Like, what is your priority? Do you realize that people who are at an airport, they don't want to work out and get all hot and sweaty before they get on a plane sitting next to other people who are hot and sweaty? Maybe you can just promote that people are more polite instead of telling them what they can wear. You know, we got a lot of stupid out there right now. Look, I appreciate sarcasm when it's, yes, context, timing, all of that matters. But if you're just going to be mean-spirited in general, and I'm good at sarcasm when I'm drawn to it, or actually I'm not drawn to it. It's just there are moments that bring out the sarcastic. It doesn't happen all that often for me, though. I'm really picky about my friends, for one thing. I'm not friends with just anybody for the sake of having friends. I think that's superficial and shallow. Friendship is something that's a slow growing flower. And if you make one good friend for life, you're lucky as hell. I had a friend for 45 years and she turned into a lunatic, and it was okay, you know. I don't think I'm gonna seek you out anymore. So yeah, you know, you can have a good friend, but then another thing that happens, a phenomena called getting healthy. You know, we make friends when we're young and screwed up. We're still trying to figure things out. And we're not at our best yet because we're still developing. We're in our 20s, we're in our 30s, we're growing up, getting used to being human. So you make a lot of mistakes when you're young, and that is to be expected, including making people into friends or trying to see the best in them when we're actually just banging your head against a wall, because as it turns out, they're not as nice as you wanted to believe, or they're not what you believed they were. And then later on, when you start to recognize things like pettiness and what's my favorite? I actually stopped talking to one of my sisters. Passive aggression. Passive aggression. It turned out I made a few friends I thought were friends for life. Their real thing was passive aggression, and once I had gotten therapy and I was healthy enough and I started recognizing it, it's like, you know what? Bye. And yet, when it comes to sarcasm, you need to know your audience, right? Like, unless you're a stand-up comedian, and even then, you better know your audience. When you do anything all the time, it's annoying, right? Unpredictable behavior is not exactly welcome if it's going to be crazy behavior, but there's more to talk about in life than the weather. And that's weird, you know, when we're young, we're very active, we make a lot of acquaintances, good acquaintances, some become real friends, some fade away. But then you get older and you do your middle life stuff, you get settled in certain ways. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. You know, I've had surprises as a streamer over the years. I thought I was really good, like, at detecting trolls, but occasionally I've had a troll that was playing the long game. And I found that more on Twitch in general. I'm really good at getting rid of trolls now, which is why my channel is so quiet. Yeah, you have to be able to say goodbye. When you value your own peace and happiness more than that of others, you start making progress in this world. I don't mean like progress making money, you make progress in your own personality. Hey, I was married for 22 years, almost 22 years, to a narcissist. And the thing was, he was a specific kind of narcissist, which kept throwing me off because I had therapy and I recognized certain kinds of things. And I recognized narcissism on one hand, but what he was actually called a vulnerable narcissist, which is confusing because on one hand you got the I'm God guy, and on the other hand you got I suck, I'm terrible, I'm shit, you should leave me. And then all the crying and all that, it's like, okay. And then you realize later that, oh, that was just another manipulation. Oh no, I don't feel like it's a bit too quiet. I like it when someone can come in here and we can have a normal conversation. You can't do that when you have a crowded room. It's hard to get everybody on the same page at the same time. But today's a special day. Today, I better check this. At 2 o'clock, I'm meeting with my son online and we're going to watch a movie together. Oh, my friend who's into needle felting just finished it. All right, let me show you what she just did. She got a kit as a gift. Let me make this a little lighter. And so she's been working on this for over a week now. So it is a 2 and 3D needle felting. There's no wet felting involved. But I gave her her first wet felting lesson, and we made friendship bowls. I gave both of mine away. One to her, as is a friendship thing, and the other one to another friend who just liked it so much it was like, here you go. So she learned how to do some wet felting and then needle felting on top of it. Wasn't that pretty? Let me tell her how beautiful it is, so I don't want her to think I'm ignoring her. Oops. That came out great. Congratulations. All right. I know she's happy now. See, we have a lot of people here that are learning new things, and I love it. Isn't that beautiful? Our mutual friend gifted both of us something to do, and it's needle felting is my second favorite in felting. Okay, so although I do enjoy it, this has been the obsession. Okay, now we can see it's starting to resemble fabric. Now the side of this that has most thread showing is the one I've made for Alice. This one, where you can see the threads. I'll be cutting it so it's, you know, and she'll have one edge that has the raw stuff. I think I'm going to leave that there for her because I want her to see how delicate it is. These are a little bit, on this side, a little sturdier, but that's going into the library for people to use, so that would be better. I know she'll take care of her stuff really carefully, but this is really thin right there, but it lets her favorite color show through, so I'm not going to add to that. Actually, this is, if I wanted to open it up now, like cut it, I could make like a window in it. So I know how to do some things that I'm not doing just because I don't think it fits in the right moment. Yes, it's true, Hyphen. We are always working together. I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. See, she works in a funeral home, and unaware that we are immortal. Well, not immortal. Each body we do let go of, but spirit-wise, we are mortal. And we do come and go all the time. And we don't want to stay in a human body forever. We like new bodies. There's fun being young and strong. But it's also what is pushing us forward with robotics. Because we want to extend our life to a certain degree, at least. Because you spend all this time gaining knowledge and learning to appreciate things, and then it's time to go. But we are all working together. There are no accidents, not a single one. Everything that we see, even we go, oh, that was an accident. No, it's either you weren't paying attention, or you had the mind in the wrong place. Like this one woman, I remember hearing a talk from Abraham-Hicks. She was pissed off because she believed that the law of attraction doesn't work because she doesn't like to wear a seatbelt, and she drives without a seatbelt. And she is aggravated that she is forced by law to wear a seatbelt or she will get a ticket. Well, the thing was, she said, I was in a great mood, I'm thinking about great things, and I got a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. And she said, well, you spend all of this time knowing when you're driving that you're not supposed to go without your seatbelt. That's been really in the front of your brain. You know when you're driving, you're breaking the law. So that is a big vibe, which finally met up with someone who is looking for somebody to give a ticket to. And that's how it works. We have momentum behind us about our thoughts not actions, but our thinking, our emotions. What do we spend most time thinking about? And what do we spend most time feeling about? Because that's the active vibration. And you cannot reach a high vibration thinking about lousy things, because that'll bring you down. You go down, yes, enjoy everything, because that increases the joy coming. So I'm going to put this aside for now, because I think I'm going to want to felt this a little bit more. So we're going to keep it aside until after my movie. But I want to open the box. Let's take a look at what I just got. This is exciting. It was my first order from Living Felt. Put this over here. And where's my Exacto? The more you savor, the better it's going to be for you. You know, my dad died at 53. And one of the first things I learned from that was stressing. Good for you. But also, we spend our time thinking about all the stuff that pisses us off. And all it does is weaken us. Adrian, thank you for ordering. Have fun creating. You bet. Ooh, okay. This is so exciting. Okay, let's get the wet out of here for the moment. That is 1 ounce of wool. My new rolling mat. All right. Now, this was not a cheap order, because my shipping was $17.75. Taxes, $3.33. The wool itself came to $33.41. Not bad. Okay, so here we have an aquamarine, but it matches the one, very much the one I've already got. Darker shade though, that's good. And I needed these greens. I didn't think I got 3, but that's good. So I needed enough green so I can make the strap for the future purse. I know, well, it wasn't. Each one is only 1 ounce. I ordered 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is a bamboo. I guess the weight came from this. It's not really heavy, but it's the reason I went ahead and ordered another one is because I needed one that was longer. The one I have right now is just this little square, and I have 2 of them, but the bigger the better for you when for doing scarves and stuff like that. So yay, I got something a little better. The purse, the person who saw it last night said this would make a good hat. I said, actually, this is how you make hats, but this one is not big enough to be a hat. So great, I've got the greens I need. We will start on this tomorrow. Yes, yes you can. Well, the thing was, I got so excited about adding some other fibers. This is all super fine, 19 micron. That means it's fine enough and soft enough to go against the skin. You know, some wool can be very coarse. And we do have some coarse wool to use as like filler. Oh, it's such a pretty color. I was hoping I was getting some of this because I needed that. I need to get more of this. That is such a pretty apricot. Anyway, what I ordered was bamboo, and mostly bamboo, and some silk, black tussock silk, because I'm going to be making little purses with black and purple. And a matter of fact, I decided to go ahead and make a little purse for this, just like a little, not a coin purse, but some, again, I don't have any pockets on all of my dresses, so I've been like, I'm making pockets. So I'm going to make some small one. How else did I possibly make it? Oh yes, yes. Well, the stuff I ordered is bamboo. The bamboo doesn't really felt well by itself, but it has a particular silky looking sheen to it. It's gorgeous. So I ordered some of those in a few different colors that I know I'll be doing projects in. And then I got 2 collections, which it won't have a whole ounce of anything, but it's a bunch of different things in 2 different color groups, one the warm and one the cool. I skipped a couple others because, you know, I don't need to spend the money on that. But the collections have a variety of fibers and textures to mix in with your stuff. So I thought, all right, well, instead of buying, you know, I did get like a big thing of the black silk, but then when you start looking at all the different things you could use, like, oh man, I could go insane. This is worse than paint. And also I know how to blend colors, so that helps. But yes, we are going to have a blast. And plus I bought all of these amazing wools. Well, they're not wool. I have to say amazing yarns. These are absolutely synthetic. But look how fluffy and fuzzy that is. And it looked like it felted fairly well in this. Right? I got most of the water squeezed out so you can start to see what this is going to look like. But I think I'm going to give it, I'll let it rest for the afternoon. I'll probably be obsessively back in the studio tonight, even though I won't be online for that. Because I keep getting more and more ideas. I feel like my brain is on fire, which is something I haven't felt in a long time. I do get excited about my work, but I have never felt this crazy excited about a single craft. I love trying different things. I love trying my hands at different things. Like painting with clay. Can you see this? Oh, no, it's not on camera. This is one of my favorites. And that is mixed media. I've got actual clay, air dry clay for the eyes. And the rest of this is acrylic mediums. So, yes, I like to be very dimensional to express my work. Especially up here, right? And this painting was inspired by these beads. They're not beads, they're actually tiles that my stepbrother used in doing his bathroom floor. They do these little blue eye kind of round tiles with silver in between. Oh, I fell in love with that bathroom. And they happened to have a few extra tiles, and so I got them. Like, yes. So it took months to do, but that kind of thing interests me. Thank you. See, I like the texture, I like the fingers on and in it, and that's what I get with the wet felt. So I got something in my eye. A second, I got another message. I hate to do this, but just mark it as read for now. Yep. Where are you? Okay, I need to go. We're going to be watching a movie on our, well, my laptop, but I don't know what he's watching it on. I think hopefully it's computer. I have a collection of movies that I can stream. For some reason, none of my DVDs are playing now that I have, well, since December. There was some kind of update. Since then, everybody's saying, well, it should work. Maybe your CDs are dirty. I said, no, brand new CDs are not working in any of my devices, so there's a problem. I haven't had time to figure it out. But that would be nice if somebody could. But we are going to watch a movie. I need to make sure I have food in me before I sit down. And I was gifted a pot full of galumpki soup. Galumpkis are stuffed cabbages, if you didn't know what they were. And she learned a recipe that instead of going through all the rolling process with the cabbage and the meat and the rice and all that, she made a soup. It's like, oh, well, actually, that doesn't sound bad. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me. It's like, these are times that are most fun when you're someone you can actually interact with. But I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. It seems like I'm coming on around 3 in the afternoon Eastern time, and right now it's 1:40 Eastern time. I don't know where it is where you are, or what it is where you are. But wherever you are, I hope you have a fabulous day. May it be inspiring and inspired and creative. So let me find my mousey and say, sign off for now. Have a wonderful day, and next time.